So we go to this match, Wheeler Yuta versus Jon Moxley. This was a match that coming off of that set of tapings, I heard from plenty of people who were there live, saw plenty of reaction from people who saw this live who said, you have to watch this match.
Hmm.
And now I can understand why, because,
Yeah.
oh man, that was quite the show, wasn't it? Like if you happen to be there in person
Oh
between
yeah.
FTR and the Bucks
Yeah,
and
that must have,
you
yeah,
know,
you got FTR in the Bucks, and then like I'm actually shocked that the crowd was able to maintain, because that's a big deal. Because remember, it started off with Adam Cole versus Christian Cage too, and that
mhm.
was one that really got them going. Like these guys, so for them to have this much energy left at the end of the night, and they do elevation tape. Like there's a bumper before too. So they probably saw 3-4 matches before Dynamite started. So this is, kudos to them, but I do understand what they were so excited about.
So they certainly got their attention after a long set of tapings here because Moxley is doing his Wild Thing entrance, and from out of the corner of the ring, Yuta just dives right at Moxley, interrupting the entrance, and we just get into a wild brawl outside the ring from the get go. They fight through the crowd and they're back in the ring. Moxley at this point just starts dominating. He takes control with a bunch of suplexes. At one point, back on the outside, he stomps Yuta's face into the steel steps and busts Yuta open in one of the flowiest
That
blade
hit an
jobs
artery.
I've
You
ever
could see
seen.
it pulsing. It was like, oh
Oh,
God.
dude,
Like,
like
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
we got to rename the scale because this is a 10 on the Yuta scale.
yeah.
Everybody, okay? We got to
Exactly.
change the scale name in honor of this guy. He is
Yeah.
bleeding a lot in this picture. In picture here, the bloodiest picture in picture I've ever seen here. It's a
Oh
bloodbath
yeah.
all around the outside of the ring. He's dripping blood, and the flow is not stopping. And Moxley is just continuing to beat the shit out of him. You mentioned the Biff Busick match during Bloodsport. Very similar story to that match here, as it's
Hmm.
basically Jon Moxley beating the shit out of this young guy who's bleeding buckets.
Hmm.
Yuta, man, his face is completely drenched in bright red. He goes up top and he delivers a huge, perfect looking dive onto Moxley through the
Yeah.
timekeeper's table on the outside.
Yeah. That was amazing to look at, because we see a lot of jumps like that. And so when you see that one, it was just so perfectly executed.
Yuta fires up, he hits some rolling Germans, hits an air raid crash. He wipes his own blood into a big streak on his own chest as he grabs Moxley's wrist and delivers the Bryan Danielson stomps. He hits a big splash for two. Yuta then locks in the crossface as Mox escapes and comes back with a big King Kong lariat for a 2 count. At this point, they start biting each other's faces. Yuta is raking Mox's back as he dives off the top again. Mox then hits a sudden paradigm shift, but Yuta kicks out at 2, and Moxley cannot believe it. Moxley locks in his bulldog choke, but Yuta won't tap, so Moxley starts throwing his knees from north to south. Yuta then rolls him up for 2 and applies his own bulldog choke. At this point, like the face on Yuta screaming out of desperation as he's pulling on this choke is very intense. Moxley escapes the sleeper hold attempt and then just brings down the elbows, then a regal knee, and then a high angle paradigm shift to which Yuta kicks out again. I don't
Yeah,
know if we've seen
the
somebody kick
pop
out.
for that was it. I
Have
I
we
don't.
from the high angle
I'm
version?
trying to think.
If we
I don't know
have,
about the
it's
high angle
some
version. If this it was Kenny Omega or
it's not somebody on
something
the
like that.
level of a
Yeah.
Wheeler Yuta. So this was
No.
completely unexpected. Mox immediately locks in the rear naked choke and just finishes him with the choke. I don't even know if he tapped. Didn't he just like pass out?
No, we just went out. Yeah.
So this was the third match between these two, and if you remember all the way back to the first one, it was really nothing more than a squash. But this
Hmm.
one was about as big of a war as you can get. When you look at these three matches, what a wonderful story of growth in Wheeler Yuta between 1 to 3.
Hmm. And incredible. I think the other thing with Yuta that I can't get over, this is textbook how to build someone really quickly. Like this push for Yuta has been going on for just a few weeks. And there have been 3 matches involved. There was the tag match of him and Chuck Taylor versus Mox and Danielson. And then there was him versus Danielson. And now there's him versus Mox. Yuta has lost every one of those. He took the pin in the tag match and he lost the 2 solo matches. And he feels huge. He could not feel hotter if they had done a no contest or a count out, or if they'd given him a fluke win. He would not feel as big as he does now, coming off 3 losses in a row. That's remarkable to me.
Mm-hmm. And it says just a whole lot about this type of performance. I mean, obviously blood is a wonderful tool in situations like these. Absolutely. I think, made everybody's memory of the match that much greater, but it was just the type of match itself and the wonderful performer that both of these men are. There's a lot of great stuff in the post-match, of course, as well, as Mox and Regal and Bryan are all out in the ring, and they all look at Wheeler Yuta as if they are looking at a ghost. They can't believe what spirit has gotten into this kid that they were making fun of just weeks ago. Regal looks like he's about to fight him because he's on guard, and Yuta is ready to take all 3 of them on. At this point, the crowd is chanting, "Shake his hand," and Regal puts his hand out and they shake. We have respect. Yuta
in a very messy suit.
Oh, a very messy suit. Yeah, you're gonna have to pay for. Yeah, I mean that's the ultimate sign of respect, is it not? He's willing to pay for dry cleaning to clean your blood off of his suit. Yuta uses his own blood and writes the words BCC on his chest as the show goes off air. Oh man, this was awesome. This was awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, just over the top violent, but so well done. And yeah, Yuta, like I said, he feels like a superstar now. You could put him in a high mid-card match on a pay-per-view, and I think people get excited. Like, the crowd were so nuts for him. And I mean, yes, there may have been some sweetening, but from anything I read online, that is in keeping with the reactions that people were saying live, was that, not that there was any antipathy towards Moxley, but that the crowd was there. They were all in for Yuta.
So I don't know if this means he's officially in the group or not. I'm personally enjoying this game of hard to get that Regal's kind of playing with him, and if he has to jump through one more hoop to get there, I wouldn't be against it. But it's been some wonderful storytelling done through professional wrestling. Again, you have Jon Moxley, who is like, man, in the span of a week, look at the incredible output that man has had. He's amazing. But yeah, so we talked earlier, Kate, about our thoughts on Rampage and how week after week, I mean, it's entertaining if you choose to watch it, but is it the type of show where you're telling your friends, hey, you have to go and sit down and watch this? This week was one of those, at least in the form of this
week could be
event.
like, you at least have to watch the main event. And honestly, like the Trent Danielson match was very good as well. Again, I think I actually said this about Wednesday's show. AEW does very good bookending, and that goes a long way to creating a good show, because if you start off hot and you end really well, then you can, not everything has to hit in the middle. Like, something would have to be really atrocious to throw people's impression of the show off. So I think it's a good strategy. They did it here. This was also, interestingly to me, this was one of these cases. A lot of times they have the really hot match off the top on Rampage. This was structured more like a regular show where it builds to the main event. I mean, they always call the last one the main event, but a lot of the time it feels like the hotter matches on near the beginning. So.
Well, in this case, because of all the blood, I can understand why they waited for this one in the end, but it made for a more satisfying viewing.
You couldn't have followed that.
No, not at all. So thank you, Raymond Terry, in the chat room, for informing me that Wheeler Yuta has updated his Twitter profile to say Blackpool Combat Club. So I wonder if that is official. Only 25, this guy. That's incredible. Wow.